same room. Now she was 33, living in the glass towers downtown, and working for some non-profit with a name that sounded like a cult. Culture of Future Generations. Gold letters 6 feet tall on the lobby wall. I stared at them while my shoes squeaked across the marble like I was shoplifting hope. My name's Trevor Calder. I'm 53. I live nowhere. Not really. Cannon City gave me 3 squares and a bed for a long time, but that ended last week. So now I was a stray in dress shoes, buzzing the front desk of my own daughter's building. The intercom clicked. Brenna Calder, it read. Her voice came fast, tight. Same tone she used in high school when I forgot which gym hosted practice. It's me, I said. Dad. I'd practiced those 3 words 100 ways. This one came out dry. She didn't say my name. She said, why? I just need a place to clean up. One night. I'll be gone in the morning. I waited, watching the elevator like it might open and fix everything. I can't do this, she said. I have a job. I have a reputation. I turned and looked at the security guard. He was eyeing my duffel like it might start leaking. I'm not here to ruin anything, I said. I'll wire you money, she said, but don't come back here. Before we continue, tell us which city or country you're listening from. Let's see which corners of the world we've gathered from today. Thanks. And now the story. I nodded, like she could see me. I just want to know how you are, I said. Anything. My son has rehearsal, she said. Then like she'd slipped. He plays violin. Charity events, I blinked. My mouth went dry. You have a son? Jasper, she said. 17. I stared at the floor, picturing some kid with my chin in her fire. Does he know about me? There was a long pause. Then, he thinks you died when he was little. That one hit like a steel beam. I pressed the buzzer button again, just to hold something. I didn't ask why she said it. I already knew. Prison is a heavy word for a little kid to carry. I'm sorry, I said. For everything, even the stuff that wasn't just me. She hung up. No click, no goodbye. I spent that night sitting on a molded plastic bench at the bus depot. Head against the window, rain streaking down outside, watching the schedule screen change places I wasn't going. Albuquerque, Salt Lake, Omaha. Places with different mistakes, maybe. I kept thinking about that hallway, 16 years back, just trying to pull 2 drunk idiots apart before someone got killed. One lunge, one shove. His head hit the stair edge. Lights out. They called it murder. The court said my face looked unremorseful. No one mentioned the bottle he tried to hit me with. No one said the judge in the apartment upstairs heard the crash and did nothing, including the judge himself. I carried all that with me. Still do. By morning, I decided on one thing. Get a job, shut up, and stay put. I wasn't going to chase after her, or him. But if that kid ever played where I could hear it, I'd find my way close enough to listen, even if I had to stand outside the back door. That paperback stayed on the desk next to the night log. Nobody told me to keep it there, but Luis came by the next shift like clockwork, nodded once, and I picked up where I left off. I didn't try to entertain, just read straight. He dozed the same spot every time, hands folded like a man trying to hold on to something you couldn't see. Walter watched from his doorway the 3rd night. Said nothing at first, just studied me like I was a witness he wasn't sure was lying. When I got up to return the book, he crooked a finger. Room 214, 10 sharp. Then he disappeared inside. 10 o'clock, I knocked. He was already in his chair, eyes clearer than most folks with both hemispheres working full speed. He had a copy of the Constitution in his lap and a yellow pad with questions. The man wasn't kidding. We didn't small talk. I read a passage about the Whiskey Rebellion, and before I could finish, he barked, "Name one general besides Washington who took the field." I guessed right. Barely. He wrote something down like I'd earned a C+ and motioned for more. This kept on 3 nights in a row. By the 5th night, I knew his speech rhythm, measured, curt, deliberate. If he paused too long, his jaw trembled. But when he spoke, it landed, like a gavel, every time. Dana stayed out of it. She didn't stop me from spending time in Walter's room, and she didn't comment on the open book or the thickening stack of Walter's yellow notes. She walked by once during a reading, glanced in, then kept going. That was her way. She didn't pat heads. She kept watch and remembered. Friday came, and the evening porter, some kid with earbuds and a baby face, went home early with food poisoning. Dana pulled out a binder and started calling for backups. I didn't wait to be asked. I grabbed a mop and hit the upper floors, dumping trash bags, swapping liners, cleaning up a leak near the second-floor fridge that smelled like someone's week-old soup died violently. She found me mopping near the pharmacy around 1 a.m. Her eyebrows went up. "Nobody asked you to touch that spill." "I saw it," I said. Didn't seem right to leave it. She held my gaze a second longer than felt comfortable. "You log it?" "In ink." "Good," she said, then added, "Again, if you cover somebody's rounds, I need to know. Gaps cause lawsuits." "I'll remember," I said. At the coffee machine, she showed up beside me with her paper cup and didn't look directly at me. "Good work tonight," she said, voice lower than usual. "Solid cover. No shortcuts." Then she walked off. I stood there staring at the stream of fake creamer hitting the bottom of my cup, stomach growling but steady. One marker. That's what that was. People like her don't hand out praise unless they're stacking chips. Back in my closet-sized room, I kicked off my shoes and lay flat, arms out, staring at the ceiling. The bed creaked when I shifted, but I didn't care. The place was mine. My key, my door, my single hook with a jacket that didn't fit anymore. In the dark, I thought about what she'd said. Good work tonight. That word work meant something. I wasn't help. I wasn't a favor. I was part of the system now, and the system didn't care what I did 16 years ago as long as I logged my tasks, followed chain of command, and didn't screw up the meds fridge. Luis knocked once on the desk the next night and handed me a new book. Short chapters, bigger print. I took that as a hint. He didn't say much, just rolled away once I opened to chapter 1 and started reading. At 10 sharp, Walter waited like usual. Yellow pad already prepped with questions from the previous night's reading. He'd scribbled a quote, something about justice delayed. He didn't say why. He never had to. "You keep this up," he said, "and your brain might outgrow the mop." "That's supposed to be a compliment?" I asked. He gave me a look. "Don't push your luck." Keep reading I did. 3 nights in, I noticed he kept glancing at the clock. By the end of the chapter, he said, "Tell your supervisor I want you assigned here. Night reading is medically therapeutic." "Don't think that's a category," I said. He raised a finger. "It is now." Back at the desk, Dana was filling out a report. "Walter wants to assign me as his personal bedtime radio," I said. She didn't look up. I heard. "If it helps him sleep, fine. Don't skip rounds. Wouldn't dream of it." She wrote for a second longer, then said, "He told me you used to teach." "Long time ago," I said. She didn't ask why I stopped. She just said, "Don't leave coffee cups on the logbook. It warps the page." Got it. That was the deal at Maple Bridge. No speeches, no second chances labeled as such. Just small markers, clean logs, steady hands. You earned space by not making noise. My space was small, windowless, and smelled like mop heads and off-brand soap. But I had a working fridge, a bed that didn't move when I turned, and a wall where I could tape up Walter's scribbled quotes if I wanted. I didn't, but it mattered that I could. Lying there, I thought about that word again. Grandson. Brenna had only said it once, but it echoed like she'd shouted it through a canyon. I didn't know his face, his laugh, his worst subject in school. I didn't even know if he liked music, or if that violin was something she forced on him to look good in brochures. But I'd heard the word. That meant he existed. And now that I was behind a desk, with a name badge and a shift, I could do what I'd promised myself. Hold still, do the job, wait for the chance. Just once to hear that kid's bow scrape a stage, even if it was from the service hallway with my ear to the wall. I stared at that flyer longer than I meant to. Culture of Future Generations. Autumn Gala at Maplebridge. Same font Brenna used on her website. Same clean lines. A little violin logo in the corner like a quiet slap. I pressed the pushpin in deeper and walked away like it didn't punch me in the throat. I kept quiet that week, working nights like I was built into the walls. That's what graveyard shifts do. They turn you into part of the furniture. You keep your shoes quiet, your clipboard filled, and your face neutral. But people still notice when you show up steady. Residents waved more when I passed with the mail cart. Nurses started asking if I could swap light bulbs instead of waiting for maintenance. I didn't mind. The more I moved, the less I thought. Walter stayed sharp at night, but he woke up mean. His muscles didn't work the way they used to, and he hated depending on people. That made sense to me. Pride and punishment share a backbone. But once the halls went quiet and I opened a book, he softened. He didn't say much at first, just stared and listened. But you could tell he was building something in his head. A timeline, maybe. A theory. Some kind of slow-burn verdict. One night I was reading him of mice and men, and halfway through a sentence, he cut in with a voice that sounded like he'd been chewing gravel. 16 years. I looked up. He pointed at my hands. Your eyes carry that number. I closed the book and waited. You shoved that man, he said, cracked his skull on the stair. I didn't answer. They called it murder, he went on. Because you didn't look sorry enough in court. The air felt thick. My fingers curled. You were my upstairs neighbor, I said. The words came before I could stop them. He didn't blink. 16 years ago. Same building. I heard the bottle smash. I heard you tell him to sleep it off. I heard the fall. My jaw tightened. I could hear it pop. You didn't testify. Correct, he said. I kept my robe clean. Told myself judges don't get involved in neighbor fights. I stood up. The chair squealed behind me like it didn't want to let go. I sat in a cell while you sat on a bench, I said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. He didn't even blink. Just said, I was wrong. No excuses. No long speech. Just those 3 words sitting there like a weight I didn't know how to pick up. I left without saying anything else. Took the long way down to the vending machines just to cool my head. Every hallway felt tight. My ribs buzzed like someone was drumming them with fingers from the inside. Dana showed up beside me and slid $1 into the machine before I could pull my wallet. You look like you swallowed a light bulb, she said, grabbing a Diet Cola. I shook my head. Just old noise playing on a loudspeaker. Well, keep it outside your rounds, she said. Residents need you present, not stuck inside your skull. She walked off. Didn't wait for a reply. That was her style. Cold water when you needed it, not warm blankets. Back at the front desk, I flipped the flyer over again. Gala in 2 weeks. Student performers. Residents invited. Press attending. My stomach clenched. I could guess who'd be center stage. I told myself I'd stay in the shadows, stick to cables, exits, sound checks. Keep my eyes off the stage and my face off the floor. Told myself a lot of things. Most of them were lies. Some things pull you whether you want them to or not. A name, a sound. Blood you didn't raise but still feel in your bones. That week, Walter didn't bring up the fall again. He let me read in peace, but his questions shifted. Now he asked about why certain people plead out. Why some faces don't get the benefit of the doubt. One night, he leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. Silence costs, he said. You learn that later. Too late. Usually I didn't respond. I just kept reading. A few days before the gala, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the dark glass by the courtyard. Hair grayer than I remembered, shoulders tighter, face set. I looked like the kind of man a teenage boy might glance past without thinking twice. That might have been a blessing. Later that night, I passed a room where a young staffer was showing a resident how to use FaceTime. The woman tapped the screen like she was defusing a bomb. The kid laughed, soft and patient. I remembered teaching freshmen to debate, how nervous they got before opening their mouths, like the words might bite them, how proud they looked when they nailed a line. I used to be good at that, pulling voices out of kids who didn't think they had one. And now maybe mine had one I'd never met. I didn't ask Walter if he'd testify now, if the clock turned back. I knew that question didn't matter. The sentence had already been served. I didn't want a courtroom redo. I wanted to stand in a room, see my daughter without panic in her eyes, and hear a violin scrape out something honest from a boy who didn't even know I shared his jawline. A couple days before the gala, Luis rolled over to the desk while I was swapping out the security DVD. "You like music?" he asked out of nowhere. "I like when it makes sense," I said. He nodded like that checked out. "Most things don't." He left me a new book. Thicker. Hardcover this time. I figured that meant I was getting promoted to longer chapters. By then, I'd stopped sleeping much. I lay on my cot staring at the ceiling, counting the hours until the event like I was waiting on a storm. It wasn't stage fright. It was something older. I wasn't scared of Brenna seeing me. I was scared of how fast she might look away. I figured I'd survive it. I'd seen worse, but when it came, I'd still be standing, near the back, no fuss. And if I heard that kid play just once, that would be enough. For now. I didn't knock that night. I just walked in at 10 sharp, same as always. Walter had the book open but didn't ask for the reading. He sat there with his left hand tapping the armrest like a metronome gone sideways. The air in the room felt different. Tight, like the seconds were holding their breath. He waited until the end of the chapter. Then he said, "I watched your trial from the back row." I looked at him, but he didn't look at me. "Cowardice isn't fancy," he said. "It's just quiet." I didn't answer. I already knew what he meant. Already knew. He told me he'd written a letter to the court the morning of my sentencing and never mailed it. Said the DA was a climber who only saw headlines. Said my public defender looked like a guy who couldn't spell appeal without Google. I sat still. Didn't nod. Didn't flinch. "I can't give you years," he said, "but I can throw you a rope." He coughed into a handkerchief he kept tucked in his sleeve. The tremor in his right hand made the fold messy. He noticed me watching and shook his head. "You won't like the rope." "What kind of rope are we talking?" He leaned back like it took effort. "My son." Blake. I'd heard the name before, once on a med form, once from Dana when she was updating visitor logs. But the way Walter said it made the air cooler. He's mid-50s, greedy, smart, the kind of person who walks into a room already counting chairs. Estate vulture? Walter nodded once. He's been circling my will for a decade. He won't like me helping strangers, especially ones with a record I didn't say anything. Not yet. He calls every month to remind me what I owe the family name. Last month he suggested I liquidate and donate while lucid. That was the phrase he used. While lucid, I let that sit. Walter closed the book slowly. "You've been good to me. You don't talk unless it matters. That means something to an old man with too many talkers in his bloodline. What's Blake have to do with me?" "You'll see," he said. Soon enough. After midnight, I walked down 14th to grab milk for the staff fridge. Cold air helped clear the noise in my chest. I was halfway back when I saw him, leaning against the bricks like he'd planted the building himself. "Trevor Calder," he said as I got close. "Night man, ex-teacher, ex-something else." He was clean-cut, expensive coat, shoes that didn't touch rain. He had that bored, surgical confidence some men wear like cologne. The kind who looks at a room and sees asset categories. "You Blake?" I asked. He gave me a polite smile. His eyes didn't smile with it. "Just checking in." "You know." See if my father's still legally upright. Ask the doctor. Doctors cost money. So do night staff who read after hours. I didn't rise to it. I held the milk like a baton. If you're working him, Blake said, stepping close, I'll find out. I set the milk on the hood of his car. Try visiting on Sundays, I said, without a lawyer for once. See what that gets you. His eyes tightened, just a twitch. Then he stepped back, adjusted his collar, and walked off like he owned the pavement. Back inside, Dana was watching the camera feed from the corner monitor. She didn't look up when I came in. Friend of yours? She asked. Visitor. She let that hang. He'll try the front door next time. Dana flipped open the night log, checked something off, and then reached under the counter. She slid over a pocket-sized Constitution, worn at the corners. If you're going to keep reading law stories, might as well use the right words. I took it. That was her version of a gold star. The next day, Walter called me during my off hours. I was lying on my cot staring at the ceiling when my cheap prepaid buzzed. I put it in writing, he said. The thing we talked about. And I added something else you won't like. What's that? You'll see it when it counts. I waited for more. Judges love to keep the board theirs. He hung up before I could ask what the hell that meant. I set the phone down and lay back again. The fridge hummed. The overhead light buzzed faintly. The air had that musty blend of old coffee and floor cleaner that I'd somehow gotten used to. I didn't ask for gifts. I didn't trust gifts from people who'd once stayed silent. And I wasn't sure I knew how to accept one, even if I wanted to. 3 nights later, Jasper showed up with a cello case and a girl with purple bangs. They were helping hang signs for the gala. His laugh cut through the hallway like a clean whistle, sharp, alive. I ducked into the supply room before he could get close. I wasn't ready to be seen. Not yet. Walter brought it up again during reading. Brenna, he said, she'll be here for the event. I nodded. You gonna talk to her? Don't know, I said. She still think you're dead? Pretty much. He gave a dry grunt. She's angry. That makes sense. But not forever. She's got every right. He looked out the window. Anger's just grief without permission. I let that hang. He didn't push. I spent the rest of that shift reading about the Stamp Act and writing rounds in tight, neat rows. The words didn't wobble. My hand stayed steady. Around 4 a.m., Dana walked by holding a clipboard and a pen behind one ear. She paused at my desk. You sleep? Rarely. She nodded. Gala's gonna be crowded. Don't let the cameras trip you, wasn't planning to. She looked like she wanted to say more. Instead, she pointed at the Constitution. You finding anything useful in there? Mostly things I wish I'd known earlier. She smirked. That's the theme of adulthood. After she walked off, I looked down at the pocketbook and flipped to a random page. My thumb landed on the 9th Amendment. The one that's there to remind everyone that just because something isn't listed doesn't mean it doesn't matter. I figured that applied to men like me. Guys who'd been crossed off early but hadn't stopped breathing. So I stayed put. I showed up, I held my line, and I waited for whatever Walter had written to show up and blow everything wide open. I didn't sleep much that week. Too many things rattling loose in my head. Blake's threats, Walter's cryptic warnings, Brenna's name on everything from flyers to folders. I worked my shifts like I was wired to the floor, watching every log entry like it might catch fire. The building gave me the excuse I needed. At 1:42 a.m., the fire panel screamed, 3rd floor. Laundry room. I was halfway up the stairs before the second beep. Dana came out of her office already moving, badge clipped, bun shaking loose like a fuse was burning in her spine. We split it, she said. East is mine. I nodded and took west. The second I hit the hallway, I knew it was real. Smoke hung low and brown, thick like an old blanket soaked in chemicals. The kind you don't breathe twice. The smell hit hard, burned lint and melting rubber. I rounded the corner, spotted the dryer half collapsed on itself, belt torn and glowing at the edges. No flames, but the motor hissed like a rattlesnake. I didn't hesitate. Yanked the pull station, grabbed the extinguisher, hit the base of the mess exactly like the training said. Foam hissed back. My lungs were already stinging, eyes watering. Luis rolled into the hallway barefoot, coughing into his arm. I pointed him toward the stairwell. He nodded, wheeled himself back the way he came without needing a second order. Farther down, I heard someone yelling, short bursts, panicked. I turned the corner and found a woman slumped halfway into the hall, one arm curled up from a stroke. She couldn't reach her call button, just kept saying, "Inhaler, please, can't." I scooped her up without asking. Light but fragile. Her head bounced against my shoulder like a bird trying to nest. I carried her to the stairwell landing, handed her off to a nurse who came running with the inhaler like we were passing a baton. Back down the hall, room 312 had a red tag for fall risk. I knocked. No answer. Pushed the door open and found a kid, maybe 20 spinal injury, stuck in his own chair wedged sideways in the frame. Sweat on his forehead, eyes wild. "I can't move," he said. "I can't. I've got you." I dropped low, wedged my arms under his, lifted. Dead weight, nothing engaged below the ribs. My back screamed like an old hinge, but I hauled him into the hallway, leaned him against the wall, and kept going. No time for comfort. Dana's voice echoed from the east side, measured, sharp, fast. "Close doors, check bathrooms, count heads. That's how you know someone knows their job. No yelling, no drama, just commands that work." We cleared the floor in under 6 minutes. That's damn good. The fire crew took the hallway and checked the unit with gear I'd only seen in manuals. Nobody dead. One burn. No transport needed. When it went quiet again, residents clapped. Not loud, just once. A short burst of relieved hands. They weren't clapping for me. They were clapping for the building not eating them alive. That was fine. I hate applause anyway. The next afternoon, Dana pulled me out of rounds to stand in a photo with the rest of the night crew. Photographer from the foundation, young guy with lens tattoos on his forearm, and too much cologne. Dana didn't ask me where to stand. She set me dead center and just said, "Documentation." Her eyes said more than that. Her eyes said, "You did right." The photo went up on the Maple Bridge site by dinner. Nothing fancy, just staff responds quickly to late-night dryer malfunction. But I recognized the share pattern. Tags, keywords, hashtags. By evening, Brenna's nonprofit had reposted it to their socials. Our partnered facility handled an emergency with grace and speed. Proud of our community. That was her hand. She's good at polishing stories, even ones she wants no part of in real life. She showed up 2 days later. Same blazer I'd seen in old photos, 2 assistants in tow, both younger and tighter dressed. Clipboard in one hand, pen in the other, face sharp enough to cut rope. "We need to verify that protocols were followed," she told Dana. "Of course," Dana said, tone like cold glass. "Happy to walk you through it." They moved through the hall like a moving inspection. Dana held the line, giving her nothing but policy and clean answers. No stories, no names. I kept to the edges, adjusting a hinge that didn't need fixing, checking the fire panel for updates that weren't there. I saw Brenna glance at me once, just a flick. Her eyes hit mine and slid off like I was drywall. Didn't even pause. Like looking at a ghost she'd already buried once. It hit, not like a slap, more like a door closing. But the odd thing? That helped. I didn't have to guess where she stood. Inside Dana's office, I heard them talking staffing. "Do you have proper vetting for overnight employees?" Brenna asked. Dana didn't flinch. "All staff are background screened and onboarded per regulation. If you'd like a copy of our HR protocol, I can have it sent over." She didn't look at me. She didn't need to. I knew that was her version of standing between. After they left, I stayed back to relog the alarm pull from that night, just to have it clean. Blake walked in an hour later like he owned part of the drywall. He stopped in front of the smoke-stained laundry room, sniffed, then looked at me like I'd left a banana peel in the hallway. "Funny how heroes show up when money's on the line," he said. Tipping his chin like that counted for proof. I didn't speak. He wanted a reaction. I knew that trick. Lawyers, politicians, and vultures all use the same bait. Before I could say a word, Dana came out of the east hallway with a clipboard and her calm face. "If you have a facilities concern," she said, stepping slightly between us, "email me." We don't do accusations in hallways. Blake didn't like that. You could see it in the way his jaw moved without opening. But he left, which meant she'd drawn a line and made it stick. I filed that away. Dana wasn't going to let him turn me into a scandal headline. That night, near 2 a.m., I stood at the coffee machine again. Dana stepped beside me like always, cup in hand. "Some folks will try to goad you," she said. "They want a soundbite they can spin." "I've been bait before," I said. "Didn't end well." She nodded, slow. "Then don't give them anything they can cut and paste." Then she looked at my pocket. "Keep that book I gave you. You'll need it." I nodded and didn't say anything. She walked off, not waiting for a thank you. I poured my coffee and stood there watching the steam rise like it had something important to say. I'd been a lot of things, locked up, left out, lied about. But I wasn't going to be the punchline in someone else's headline again. Not while I had a badge, not while I had a floor to hold. Chairs lined the rec hall wall to wall, tight enough to make walking sideways a requirement. Paper lanterns hung from fishing wire like ghosts done on a budget, crooked but full of effort. I walked the perimeter twice before guests showed, checking exit signs, emergency lights, and mic batteries like I was prepping for trial. I like when things work, even if people don't. Brenna's team rolled in next, badges, earpieces, clipboard clicks. She wore a soft navy blazer and heels that didn't make noise on the tile. Her PR face was locked in place, smile like a blade, eyes always moving, never landing. She ran point like a general, kissed cheeks, straightened banners, adjusted the podium with 2 fingers like germs offended her. I stayed near the AV cart in the back, wrapped cables with a little too much focus, kept my head down and my mouth shut. She didn't see me. Or she did, and just filed me under background noise. Either way, it worked. The students arrived in clusters, cases banging knees, suit jackets wrinkled at the elbow, sneakers barely cleaned up enough to pass. Some were already tuning in corners. A few were glued to their phones, nervous fingers tapping screens like it'd give them courage. Then he walked in. Didn't need a name tag. I knew it was him by the way my chest locked up. Tall, lean, sharper elbows than his suit could hide. Black violin case in one hand, sheet music sticking out of a folder like it had been stuffed in last minute. He had Brenna's jawline, but his eyes scanned softer. A little unsure, a little careful. "Excuse me," he said. "Where can we stash our cases?" I pointed to the stage closet. Storage is behind the curtain, straight through. "Cool, thanks," he said, trying to sound grown. The edge of a beard that didn't quite connect was his only armor. I didn't let my voice shake. "Good luck out there." He smiled a little, said, "You too." Then caught himself like that didn't make sense, and walked off. Brenna opened the event with a speech about bridging generations. Her tone was polished, every sentence timed with applause gaps. Folks clapped when they were supposed to, nodded when she got emotional. It was all clean, prepped, beautiful. I stood by the fire panel in the back, black polo, black pants. No one notices the guy by the breaker box. That's one of the perks. Then came the performances. Group numbers first, then duets. Jasper's solo was listed last, save the strongest for the finish. He stepped onto the small stage like he was walking into deep water. Didn't wave, didn't smile. Just raised his bow, closed his eyes, and breathed once through his nose. I didn't know the piece. My brain was buzzing too loud for names. Something classical, fast, wound tight and quick at the start. He didn't look at the crowd. He looked at his left hand like it was a map he'd drawn himself and didn't fully trust. Then he played, not perfect, but alive. The bow danced, the notes chased each other down. My throat burned and my ribs pulled tight. Halfway through, he glanced up, just once, and his eyes skimmed right past me like I was drywall, which was fair. To him, I was just the janitor. And still, my hands didn't stop shaking until he hit the last run, nailed the high note, and let the bow fall. He grinned for half a second, wiped it off fast, then walked off like nothing happened. I stayed in place. Didn't move. Didn't breathe for a while. Cookies and punch followed, the sugar tables filled with polite chatter, donors leaning on plastic chairs, parents faking interest in each other's kids. I sipped coffee I didn't want and tried to hold still. Then it hit. That strange air shift you feel before a storm. Dana moved fast, scanning the room. "Envelope's gone," someone whispered. "Donor's check envelope. It was right there, a white one, big, with a label." Blake showed up like he'd been summoned. "Well, that's unfortunate," he said, loud enough for the room to hear. "Might want to check the staff cubbies." Dana didn't blink. "We'll follow procedure. Office first, then police report. No witch hunts." Her eyes hit me once, then slid off like she'd measured my temperature and found it stable. That glance meant something. A count of trust. I stayed quiet. 15 minutes later, Jasper found me by the vending machines. "Is Judge Maddox here?" he asked, breath a little fast. "Room 214, I said. "I'll walk you up." Elevator sticks sometimes. He nodded, shifted his violin case on his shoulder. We took the stairs. Walter was sitting upright, blanket over his knees, glasses on. When he saw the case, he didn't smile. He nodded like someone had just entered a courtroom. "You play Bach?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Jasper said. "You own a good bow?" "I wish," Jasper grinned. "This one's student grade. Makes the high notes cry a little. Let's hear it." I stood in the doorway while they talked about string tension, balance, composer intentions. Jasper relaxed, voice climbing a little each time Walter nodded. Judges don't nod easy. "I'll leave you two," I said. Jasper paused. "You like music?" I shrugged. "I like when it adds up." He nodded. "I'll play something for you next time." My throat tightened. I just nodded and stepped out. Back downstairs, the envelope turned up, tucked under a stack of printed programs, torn corner and all, still sealed, no cash missing. Dana logged the incident without drama, just facts. Blake frowned like someone had taken away his spotlight. Before he left, I heard him ask Dana if she thought they should tighten staff protocols. Her answer was cold enough to freeze paint. "The system works. Trust takes time. We let it." He didn't respond, just walked out, coat flaring behind him like he was trying to make a scene on exit. That night, I sat in the tiny room and looked at the flyer from the gala. Still had one pinned to the board by my fridge, like a postcard from a future that didn't include me. But I'd heard the boy play, and I'd seen what it did to Walter, how it lifted something off his shoulders. That mattered. Enough to keep me here. Enough to hold my line. 2 weeks after the gala, Walter had me bring in the table from the day room and a pitcher of water with 2 glasses. I wiped it down, straightened the napkins, and made myself scarce. Old men earn the right to make their last chess moves behind closed doors. I didn't ask who the lawyer was. I didn't need to. Door closed. I took the long way back down to the lobby. As soon as I sat at the front desk, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Coffee," Blake said. No greeting, just that. 5 minutes. I met him outside because it's easier to walk away out there. Concrete gives you an exit that carpet doesn't. He came in hot. Gray coat, black gloves, no warmth in the eyes. "You're not family," he said. "You don't get to cash in." Didn't ask for anything. "If he left you so much as a toaster," he said, "I'll bury it in filings and salt the ground." He leaned in, breath sharp with something sweet and artificial, probably laced with the smell of a new lawsuit in the making. "You know your past is public, right?" he said. "I don't even have to dig." I didn't move. Just stared at the cars passing on 14th like they had more right to be here than I did. You say that like I've got a reputation to protect, I said. I mop floors. I read at night. Write that down. He blinked like I'd spoken a foreign language. Guys like him don't like being laughed at without the sound. Back upstairs, Walter didn't pretend to dance around it. I put a condo in your name, he said. Small place. Bought it back in 2003. It's yours now. I didn't speak. I just stared at the pitcher of water and the way his good hand trembled when he pushed the folder across the table. Dana was already ahead of it. She looped in HR and the facility's legal team. Policy said staff couldn't inherit from residents they were actively caring for. So we filed a recusal, me stepping off his care chart, clean and fast. But I said no, to the condo, to the signature. He didn't argue. Also, he said, catching his breath, I created a fund. He took a moment, coughed hard into his sleeve, then looked up at me like this was the part that mattered. For a violinist named Jasper. Tuition, 4 years, conservatory level. I blinked. You barely know him. I know what talent sounds like, he said, and I know punishment when I see it. You don't need to carry two people's regrets. He told me the fund only activates if Brenna doesn't block it. If she tries to steer him somewhere else, the money goes into a public program under Jasper's name. No wiggle. I stared at the glass of water like it had answers. It didn't. I stepped into the hallway and paced. Hands in my pockets, fists clenched. Every instinct said, don't take it. Don't let this man buy back his silence with a condo or a tuition check. But this wasn't for me. And I knew when to take a rope, even from the same hand that once let me fall. Later that week, Jasper showed up after his audition. Still in his blazer, hair out of place, case slung over one shoulder like a burden he hadn't earned yet. He found me in the hallway, breathing like someone had just kicked his ribs. I choked, he said. Bow shook. Brain just blanked. He dropped onto the bench outside Walter's room and rubbed his eyes. Come on, I said. Let's walk. I unlocked the rec room. Empty chairs, fluorescent lights, clean and cold. Pretend this is the stage, I said. Walk it. Count steps, hear your shoes, tune imaginary strings. He followed me, quiet but not hesitant. I showed him the trick my old debate coach taught the shaky kids. Box breathing, I said. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Do it again till the static goes down. He closed his eyes and tried it. Shoulders still high, but the panic started to leave his face. I missed a whole section, he said, like skipped right past it. Then next time, land it. He nodded, still pale but steadier now. Come back from a miss. That's the whole game. He sat down and let the case rest beside him. She thinks it's a hobby, he said. My mom. She says it's just noise with a dress code. She's worried. That's a full-time job. He smiled, quick and sideways. Then he said something that made my jaw tighten. You sound like someone's grandpa. I kept my face still. I've been called worse. He left that night with less weight in his walk. Still heavy, but manageable. I stayed behind and turned off the lights. Watched the shadows shift like applause that didn't know when to stop. Walter called me the next morning. I filed the documents, he said. Legal office has copies. So does Dana. So does the school board. You always play this many angles? I was a judge, he said. This is what we do. I told him I still didn't know how to feel about it, about any of it. He said, it's not a gift if it's earned. I didn't earn a condo. No, but you earned seeing the kid play. I didn't argue. Not because he was right, but because he'd stopped pretending to be anything but human, and I could meet that halfway. The photo showed up online on a Tuesday, black and white. Jasper holding his violin like it was made of glass. Walter beside him, leaning forward, caught mid-laugh. Someone had taken it through the common room window during a student visit. Blake forwarded the screenshot to Brenna with a single line. Look who's mentoring your son. That man doesn't send messages. He lights fuses. She came in fast. No email, no heads up, no handlers this time. I was wiping down the handrails when I saw her blur past the front desk, Storm in her heels. She didn't look at me, didn't even slow down. Went straight up to Walter's room like she owned the oxygen on that floor. I followed, but stayed back. By the time I got to the doorway, she was already in it. "Stay out of my family," she snapped. Her voice didn't tremble. It was steel with a blade edge. "I built our name from scratch. You don't get to pull us into your regrets." Walter didn't raise his voice, didn't blink. His face stayed the kind of calm you only earn after years of letting people try to outtalk you. "I failed a man once," he said, voice low but steady. "I won't fail a boy. He's a musician. Let him be one." I hovered in the hall, half shadow, heart pounding hard. Not my place to referee, not my place to hide either. I took one slow step toward the doorway. That's when Blake pushed in without knocking, loud and greasy like always. He had the timing of a cockroach in a restaurant inspection, just when things were at peak tension. "Guess we're doing full disclosure now," he said, voice smug and echoing. "Might as well tell the truth. Trevor here is Jasper's grandfather. You can check the court records if you don't believe me, Brenna." Her body turned before her face did. That kind of slow swivel you only do when your spine freezes first. She looked at me. Just a stare. Cold. Flat. "Is that true?" she asked. I nodded. Once. I never said a word, I told her. Because it wasn't mine to say. I wasn't going to show up and lay claim to anything. I stand outside the door you draw. You want it locked, I'll keep it shut. You want it open, I'll never push it. That's yours. Jasper hadn't moved. He stood near the window, violin case in both hands like a shield. His mouth opened, then shut. When he finally spoke, it came out small but sharp. "You said he died," he said, looking at his mother. That one hit her. Her hand twitched. She blinked and turned her face toward the glass like something outside needed her attention, more than what just cracked loose inside the room. Walter cleared his throat. Sounded like gravel in a coffee can. "I set a grant for Jasper's schooling," he said. "It activates only if his mother allows him to take the path he hears. If she interferes, it transfers to a public music program in his name. No wiggle room." His hand trembled as he pointed toward the file folder on the desk. "It's signed. It's filed. Choice is hers now. Blake lost it." "You can't bribe a family," he barked, stepping forward. "You think this is noble? It's manipulation. It's dirty. It's insulting." Walter didn't flinch. "Watch me." That old judge voice was still in him. No louder than a whisper, but it cut deeper than yelling ever could. I looked at Brenna. "I don't want anything from you," I said. "No makeup years, no speeches. I'm not showing up with scrapbook pages and tears. I just want to hear the boy play once in a while." That's all I turned to Jasper. "I'll be whatever you want. Nothing or something. I won't cause trouble, but I won't lie to you either." He looked at me, eyes full and confused. Not angry, not yet. Just wrecked in the way only 17-year-olds get when the truth bends the world beneath their feet. "I'll text," he said, voice cracking slightly. "Not sure when. Just, I'll text." That was plenty. He didn't need to say grandpa. He didn't need to hug me. He didn't need to forgive anyone. He just needed space. Brenna didn't respond right away. She left the room with her jaw locked tight and her mouth pulled so flat it looked drawn on. I watched her heels disappear down the hallway. She didn't glance back. Blake lingered like a sour aftertaste. Hovered by the doorway, arms crossed, waiting for someone to give him a reason to bark again. Dana came down the hall, read the tension with one glance and said, "Let's clear the floor. Visiting hours are over." Blake tried to object. Dana didn't raise her voice. "You don't live here. Move or be logged." He left. No huff. No words. Just poison on his breath And that look people get when the ground they thought was theirs starts shifting under someone else's name. That night I didn't sleep, didn't read, didn't touch the book Walter gave me. I just sat on the cot in my tiny room and let my shoulders relax for the first time in what felt like years. I wasn't winning anything, but I hadn't broken anything either. Sometimes, holding the line is all there is. The auditorium looked like every small-town rec center I'd ever taught in. Bad overhead lighting, brown tile floors, and chairs that wobbled if you leaned too far back. Jasper's second shot wasn't the glossy conservatory kind. It was local. Quiet. The kind of event that only matters if you've been clawing your way back from something. I got there early, parked in the last row, center aisle. Same seat I used to take when my students did their first debates. From the back, you can see everything without anyone asking who you're rooting for. Dana showed up 10 minutes later, sat beside me without a word, and handed over one of the 2 coffees she'd picked up on the way in. Still hot. Still black. Still her style. She didn't ask why I was sitting there like a statue. She already knew. The house lights flickered once, then the students filed in. Jasper walked too fast, like he wanted to get it over with. Halfway to the center of the stage, he caught himself, stopped, then took one breath. I saw the pattern. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, just like I showed him, just like he remembered. My shoulders dropped. He raised the bow, and he played. Not flawless, but clean, honest. Nothing rushed. The nerves were there, but they didn't own him. He played like someone who knew what the notes were about, not just how to hit them. A minute into the piece, someone slid into the back of the aisle. I didn't have to turn around to know it was Brenna. I saw her reflection in the window panel. Arms tight, hands clutched around her phone like it was a rock, and she was about to drop it. She didn't see me. I didn't wave. I just listened. When it ended, the clapping was polite and warm. The kind that says we see you, even if we don't know the whole story. Outside, the winner's list was taped to a door like a school lunch menu. Nothing digital, just a sheet of paper and 4 names. Jasper was third, not top, but on it. He came out holding the list like it might float away. Partial scholarship, he said. Enough for the summer program. I nodded. That's not a maybe anymore. Nope, he said. It's real now. Dana and I were standing near the curb when he spotted us. He walked over, still clutching the paper like a passport. Thanks for the breathing thing, he said. It worked. I stole it from an old coach, I said. He made C students sound like senators. He gave a quick smile, one that didn't vanish right away. Then Brenna walked up. Her eyes were red but dry. She didn't look at Dana. She looked straight at me. She handed me a small envelope. A ticket, she said, for his department recital next month. You sit back row, no fuss. She paused just long enough to let the weight hit, then added, I saw you do that already. Then she walked back to her car. She didn't need a speech. That was the closest thing to an open door I was going to get. Back at Maplebridge, Dana handed me a sealed letter, legal envelope, Blake's name on the return. He's contesting the will, she said. Formal petition. You're listed as a courtesy. Do I need to do anything? No, she said. Not your fight. Don't engage. I nodded and set the letter in the drawer by the medlog. Out of sight, where it belonged. 2 weeks later, the hearing went forward. Walter showed up in a chair pushed by a nurse, tie crooked, hands covered in a thin blanket. The judge took one look at the medical report and signed off on the bequest. Blake argued until he was red in the face. Nobody cared. The court doctor confirmed capacity, and that was that. When it was over, I exhaled. For the first time in months, my ribs didn't feel like they were hugging rebar. That night, I found Dana by the vending machines. She had a folder under her arm and a coffee in her hand. 2 things, she said, hit me. 1, we're converting the planter by the front steps. Residents voted to name it after the kid with the violin, Jasper's Patch. You good with planting duty on Saturdays? I nodded. Long as no one asks me to identify herbs. They will, she said. They always do. She reached into her folder and pulled out a laminated badge, not the standard shift card. This one was red on the back, Master Access. For emergencies only, she said. That's trust, not just keys. Don't make me regret it. I took it and slid it into my wallet like it was a photo. Around midnight, Luis rolled up to the desk and handed me a folded clipping from the local paper, yellowed edges, ink smudged. Fire guy gets quiet, thanks, the headline read. A photo of the team, me center frame. Dana gave it to the paper, he said. Said you wouldn't brag. I don't like reading my own name. I read it twice anyway. The rec room smelled like starch, sugar, and 3 different casseroles trying to outdo each other. Late May, windows cracked, folding chairs lined up tight. Not a celebration exactly. Just a gathering where folks brought their best dishes and their better moods. There was a card for Walter on the snack table. 2 full sides of signatures and more names curling into the margins. Jasper was by the soda cooler, tuning his violin with a serious look that cracked a little every time someone said his name. Hair in his face again. Brenna reached over, pushed it back without thinking, then pulled her hand away like it never happened. She didn't look at me. She didn't have to. The recital ticket was already in my coat pocket, hand-delivered. No envelope, no speech, just folded and passed like it wasn't heavy. I sat in the back row, center aisle, same as always. Dana dropped into the seat beside me with 2 coffees and no comment. Figured you don't mess with a working plan, she said. Jasper opened with Tchaikovsky. It took him 2 measures to settle in. Then he followed it with something fast, flashy, full of corners. Didn't flinch once. The room stayed quiet through both pieces. Even the residents who usually whispered or rocked didn't move. He had it locked. And for the first time since I walked out of Canon, I didn't feel like I was bracing for something. No crash coming, no shadow on the wall, just sound, clean and real. At intermission, Walter motioned me over. His hand was steadier than usual. I put it all in a letter, he said. What happened that night? What I didn't say. It's for Brenna. For Jasper. For you. If you ever want it, I looked him in the eye and put my hand on his shoulder. You already said the part that matters. He nodded once. We didn't add to it. Blake didn't show. Word was he'd driven out to tour condos in a gated community and got stuck in traffic long enough to rage text half his contact list. I didn't care. Some people teach themselves to be alone and then get shocked when no one follows them out the door. After the music, we all shuffled outside. Weather was warm. Air smelled like potluck leftovers and lilacs. The new planter box sat by the front steps, fresh soil already in, little seedlings poking up like shy kids. Plastic sign, hand-lettered, Jasper's Patch. Jasper groaned, laughed, and pretended to be annoyed while 3 residents clapped like he'd just played at Carnegie. He crouched down and watered the basil like it was crystal. Moving slow, gentle. He had his mother's jaw, but he'd started carrying his own name. Brenna came up beside me under the awning. No preamble. I went to your sentencing, she said, eyes on the lot. Sat next to a woman who kept saying you didn't do it on purpose. She breathed deep, then out. I should have asked more questions back then. We were both kids, I said. Even grown-ups are kids sometimes. We stood there, watching her son work dirt into something green. You don't push, she said. That helps. I shrugged. Pushing never got me much besides cuffs. Dana caught my eye from the top of the steps and lifted her coffee toward the roof. It was a signal. We took the back stairs up to the staff deck, sat in 2 metal chairs that wobbled a little, feet up on the rail. She set a paperback down between us. Worn spine. Some courtroom drama with a title like Reasonable Doubt. For nights when the stories run out, she said. We didn't say much else. Just let the building hum beneath us while the city turned down its lights. Down below, under the security lamp, Jasper's violin case glowed like a little black boat anchored next to the herb box. Still. Waiting. I don't get the 16 years back. I don't get the bleacher nights or the missed birthdays or the mornings that started without me. That's not how life works. But I got a last row seat to something that mattered. A kid with a shot, a judge who found his voice, a daughter who opened the door, just a crack. A small garden with the right name, a key card I didn't have to beg for. That's not a headline win. It's the kind you build a life on. You hold the hinge steady. You keep your shift clean. And you leave the door open for the ones who decide to walk through. If someone in your family lied to protect you, would you forgive them years later? Or never? Share your answer in the comments, and if you enjoyed this story, please hit like and subscribe. It means a lot to us and takes just one click. And if you think this story was good, drop a comment with your thoughts. That support really helps keep the channel going.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.